Before we start public comment, Administrator Holte wants to tell us something about the documents in front of us, so
Yes.
please do so.
So the first package, it starts with potential ideas to use the 2025 SAHA. So that is from the May 13th, 2025 County Board packet. And again, all of this information was previously emailed to you, but it's relevant to the meeting, so I went ahead and printed it off. The next document is dated July 22nd, 2025. It is item 7.1 from that particular addenda, which again is in relation to the SEMPRA allocation. And that also includes the minutes from that meeting that's stapled together. The next item is the Minnesota Department of Revenue 2026 statewide affordable housing aid documents. And then the last one is the email that was forwarded this morning at 7:01, which reflects the numbers for the only homeless shelters that Commissioner Bagley asked me to share with the whole board. So those are those documents, and then County Recorder Bamnick has supplied hard copies of his presentation, which is also being. Thank you.
Great, thanks a lot. We begin our meeting with public comment period. So if there is anyone in the audience that would like to share some thoughts with us, I would encourage you now to step up to the microphone and tell us your name and your address for the record, and then share your thoughts. We allow 2 minutes for each person's public comment, and there is a timer that will appear on the screen. In addition to that, we also allow individuals who are participating online to share their thoughts in the public comment period. So if you are online and have something you'd like to tell us, could you unmute yourself or raise your hand? I'm going to ask 2 more times in case there's anyone here in the audience or online that would like to participate in public comment. And for the 3rd and final time, is there anyone who would like to participate in our public comment period? Hearing no one, I'm going to go ahead and close the public comment period and move on to the rest of the agenda. Item 3 is the approval of some past county board minutes.
So move. I'll second that.
Commissioner Elsing has moved and Commissioner Bagley has seconded approval of county board minutes for February 24th of 2026 and a closed session that we had on March 3rd of 2026. Is there any further discussion?
No.
Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
If anyone's opposed, say nay. Passes unanimously. The next item is consent and approval of the agenda. So if anyone has adjustments to the agenda, could you share them with me? County Attorney Sonneman.
Nothing for me, thank you.
Commissioner Bagley.
Nothing, thank you.
Commissioner Elsing.
Nothing, just a comment.
Commissioner Ward.
I would like to pull 5.2 into a general business discussion.
Sure. So let's make it 6.0.
Okay. And then a couple, an AMC conference update and a announcement, please.
Administrator Holte.
Nothing, Madam Chair.
Okay, so we have some slight adjustments to our agenda. It would be in order if you would like to approve the agenda.
Don't move the approved agenda, amended agenda.
Okay, Commissioner Ward has moved. Commissioner Bagley has seconded approval of the agenda as it was amended. Is there any further discussion?
It was me, actually.
Oh, I'm sorry. Really?
Yeah.
I didn't
Yeah.
even look. I apologize. Commissioner Ward moved and Commissioner Elsing seconded approval of the agenda as it was amended. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, say nay. The agenda is approved. Administrator Holte, could you read the consent comments for us into the record?
5.1, accept certificate of performance and authorize final payment for CASA 21 grading and concrete surfacing. 5.2 was pulled. 5.3, approve take our daughters and sons to work day. 5.4, approve mitigation of existing parcel data to ISRI's parcel fabric platform. 5.5, approve contract with Driftless Region Vector Control LLC for vector control services. And 5.6, confirm payment of disbursements.
I'll move to approve the remaining consent items. And a quick comment about the cost for Highway 21, $7.5 million. But I'll move to approve the consent items.
Concrete,
Second.
lasts forever.
I better.
Okay, Commissioner Bagley moves, Mr. Elsing seconds approval of the consent business as it was read. Did you want to make a further remark?
No, I just.
Nope, you got it about the cost of the highways, yeah. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
All right.
Aye.
Anyone's opposed, say nay. Consent business is approved. We move on to general business. The first item was previously 5.2, approve funding portion of RAP Plus program with opioid settlement funds. Commissioner Ward, you want to share some thoughts?
Yes. I'm concerned about what we're doing here with opioid funds. And of course, the world of AI generates a lot of information, but Attorney Sonneman was the one that helped. So maybe she can provide some clarity. Attorney Sonneman was the one that helped negotiate the settlement. Where I'm drawing my experience from is when we got the tobacco money. We got a lot of money back then, and the companies that had made tobacco were forced to pay us, and we used that money. And some of that money went to really good things, and some of that money went to really frivolous, odd things. So in one of the articles that I pulled up, it's written by a drug policy analyst, and it's a best practices to prevent misuse of opioid settlement funds. And the one thing that it highlighted in here was there's the National Opioid Settlement Agreement includes Exhibit E. And I don't know that I've seen Exhibit E, but it stipulates a non-exhaustive list of approved uses centered on prevention, treatment, and recovery from opioid addiction and harm reduction programs. And that's what we've been following. We have those three pillars. But it also goes on, and then it's supposed to use evidence-based education programs. But it does warn us that supplantation, where new dollars are used to fund existing programs. They highly recommend against doing that. And that's, I think, what we're doing here is this, again, in this commentary and the information I've read is that opioid dollars are supposed to be for new programs, new things to address opioids. And I think I've been provided before, a lot of the RAP people, and I don't have the numbers, but it tends to be more of an alcohol problem than a drug problem. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't know if I've ever seen the breakdown. But here, they're really, the practice isn't, it does go on to say, this practice is not explicitly prohibited, but still workarounds can undermine the intended goal of building service capacity through these funds. So again, I'm a little, if somebody comes knocking at our door someday and wants to do a thorough audit of what we did with these dollars, it may be pointed that we shouldn't have done that. It says substituting existing funding rather than using the settlement dollars to enhance care. So maybe we're doing that. Opioid settlement stipulation dollars that funds should be used for specific opioid remediation purposes. Financial controls and everything, they're quite concerned about that. And then Minnesota, it says in here, a handful of states that provide accessible and detailed descriptions of the use of these funds is the state of Minnesota, which has a dashboard allowing anyone to track what will be done with the 117 million awarded. The dashboard breaks down by county, outlining who received the money for what purpose, whether the grantee is using an evidence-based program, and the outcomes of this spending. So are we on that dashboard? Are we using that dashboard, or does it exist?
The state does it for us.
Yeah, I haven't looked at the dashboard, so I don't know the answer to that problem, but I know I can respond if you, to your other concerns.
Well, and so it goes on, and it does talk about how we didn't scrutinize the tobacco dollars, and maybe that was a problem, and how they feel there should be more scrutinization this time. Misallocating dollars undercuts the rehab programs. And so and then the highlights is discourage supplementation. I'm not saying that right, supplantation.
Supplementing, yeah.
Yeah, through clear spending principles, prioritize external providers with efficiency, and I know we've been asked that, prohibit scrutinization, support volunteer frameworks for evidence-based spending, increase spending transparency, allocate a portion of the funds to innovate in emerging treatments, invite independent spenders review, include community voices in spending decisions. And then there's a whole nother report, but it's amazing what you can get with one click of the button. And I take it with a grain of salt, but it is truly an educational process. So,
Attorney Sotoman, did you want to respond?
Yes, thank you. Well, first of all, you're correct. I had helped negotiate the settlement that resulted in each county and city and the other entity actually receiving direct funding rather than asking for a grant.
right,
Which
big, thank you.
big thing, right? And have been involved with the RAP program from the beginning. And RAP doesn't just cover people who have alcohol dependency.
Right.
Substance abuse, which includes other forms of chemical dependency. I put alcohol under chemical dependency, but and for instance, many of our RAP participants are also in our treatment court, which you have to have a diagnosed chemical substance abuse issue in that. And the other component of RAP, which is extremely important, is the mental health evaluation part. I think as we all noticed at the CJCC meeting recently, which I had to leave a little early, behavioral health was the number one issue. And those two combine, even back as long as 2012, when we first looked at what was happening in our jail. And I know our sheriff and jail administrator Buswell are here. And that's good, you happen to be here today, is that the population of the jail even back in 2012, about 75%, and this was our own survey that we did in CJCC, about 75 to 80% have co-occurring disorders, both chemical dependency and mental health. So the 60,000 that we're asking for is a very small amount considering how much, if you want to call it bang for the buck, that you get working with our partner, Hiawatha Valley Mental Health Center. These folks then are given a mental health evaluation. They're evaluated at the beginning by our jail intake worker for both substance abuse and mental health. And that's a what should I call it? A sort of a general evaluation, but it points them in the right direction. So let me get back to the supplemental part. I don't think in that article you're quoting focuses on it should go to new programs. It is going to new programs, but it also should go to, and that was one of the ideas that we had when we talked about in terms of the negotiation, that this money should also be used for effective programs, and RAP is an effective program if you saw the numbers, in terms of the recidivism rate that we have in our numbers. To me, it would make no sense to put the money toward just only new programs when you have an effective existing program that, $60,000 makes a huge difference in these people's lives, as well as, and maybe, I don't know if our relatively new human services director could talk about it, because she worked in a reentry program, administered one in Wisconsin. And so I think 60,000 is not a big number to
No.
help people.
Well, I'm not, at this point in time, at this discussion, I'm not questioning the benefits and things of RAP and everything. But if we're taking $60,000 today, and this opioid money is not forever, it will run out. So then are we, as you said, we've got a good program and it's working, but again, what was the intent? And you were the negotiator. So I am questioning if we're following what we negotiated for. And again, if at some point in some time, somebody comes back and says, hey, Winona County, it's an existing program. So we are supplanting the money. We're taking opioid money, not direct levy money, which in a way is a good thing, but it's a one time. So then 2027, 2028, how do we keep
Well, it could be at
this
one time
go?
for the 18 years that it'll be.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, it
so-
seems, that seems a little questionable
Well,
too.
and I think also Commissioner Ward, those of us who are working with RAP, and I add Jill Chafee, right? To that
Yep.
number.
Yep.
We are always looking for other means to support these programs beyond the levy. And some, yes, the levy does support because you are, or the county is paying for the jail intake worker, and the jail social worker was also created. Those are integral parts of RAP. But I must say the jail social worker does a lot more, and so does the jail intake worker than just RAP, but that's another story.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, I'm just putting us on record saying that I'm questioning it. And at some
And-
point, if it comes back to bite us,
Well, and I appreciate that because I know there's, the whole issue about fraud in the Department of Human Services.
Very high.
programs. I'm very well aware of that. And I think you and I have worked together for years enough to know that I am always looking for waste in things. And so we're not going to be putting these dollars, it's efficient, it's effective, and we're not wasting, but maybe Jill has some other.
and then
Eric
there's,
was saying
and there's a
something
couple, there's a
then-
couple more points in your report that I need
Yeah.
more
Okay.
information on.
Okay, so then we'll come back to you.
Okay, that's
Yep.
fine.
So I concur with the thought, one of the biggest things that I always get scared of is we start to fund something changes, board changes, we lose sight of what it was, one-time money, and then it becomes a necessity. Hey, don't cut me back, make you feel bad. The funds dried up, and that's the scary part. Once it gets started, it's hard to retract. That's what always scares me about these programs. And we see it all the time. I watch it when I sat on all these other boards and mayor and everything. So it's always difficult once it starts. It starts with good intentions, but then we forget what it once was. And then you have to look somebody in the eye and say, hey, we can't continue to go down. So I appreciate that from you, Commissioner Ward, because it's how government grows exponentially, because it's easy to give it out. It's hard to retract it. So I would also like to go on record saying that, whether this goes through, that we need to keep in mind that right now it's free money, but we need to make sure that this just doesn't fall back onto the taxpayer when it lies, because I see that coming. Two is, I'm curious, did you have any other alternatives to the opioid money, Commissioner Ward, that, besides this program?
Everybody's out there asking.
I know.
It's free. The
Yeah.
word on the street is.
So I was just curious,
they
did
got
you have
money.
any? Yeah,
Nothing specifically. I
Didn't
mean,
either,
we're working
yeah.
with the community, but we're getting asked later in the agenda, and everybody points to, well, you got opioid money. You can use it for this, that, and everything.
Yeah.
And I guess I haven't looked at Exhibit E to know what that list is.
So I was not aware of, and thank you for your research with, the fact that really it was designed to start new programs. That was kind of the major intent. I can appreciate, giving to existing ones, especially if there's validity there. But my fear with the new programs is we create the same situation where now we start something and now we got to figure out how to fund it when the money dries. So maybe it's the lesser of the two evils, as long as we still duly note and we don't create another one that we might have to fund. But I was definitely open if we had anything else potentially. I like the idea of the one-time thing and say, here you go, here's the seed money, get it going, help you, and off to the races you go. So
Administrator Chapin. Good morning.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. Sometimes there's a little delay, I don't know.
Okay.
Maybe it's the battery dead one, I don't know.
Correct me if I'm, but I believe part of what's happening with RAP with this particular set of funding is different than what. In that it is at the jail, there is no other funding stream that is available when you are in the jail. And I think this group has talked about that quite a bit in terms of the fact that the jail ends up taking responsibility for the cost of a variety of services, including medications and things like that. the goal of this piece is to do that earlier engagement, if I recall correctly. Is that correct?
It's part of it. I mean,
Yes,
these are
it's a piece of
support,
it.
support services, and they don't go to the participant, they go to the service provider.
Right.
So it's not a handout of money.
To go to the jail and
Or
to
to-
start them early.
Right, right.
So
mhm.
that is a piece. I
Early
think that we-
intervention, early
Yes, I
intervention.
wanted to
yep,
highlight
mhm.
that there are not other services that are funded or can be when you're in jail. And so that is a piece of the puzzle as well.
Yeah, they don't have their social security. I think that's still the
Mhm.
case, right? That you lose
Okay.
it until
ahead.
you get in.
Okay, thanks. Administrator Holte, and then back to Commissioner Ward.
So if I may, Commissioners, just a point of clarification. So with the RAP Plus program, in 2025, actually, the county board did approve 60,000 of the opioid funds for funding of the program. Namely because we did not have any grant funding anymore. It was exhausted. So with all due respect, this is a program that was originally funded by grant that became levy money, which then we contributed opioid funds. So this is year 2 for clarification.
Commissioner Ward?
Yeah, just a couple other questions. You reference in the report. On page 20 of our board agenda, substance use disorder evaluation. Could I get a copy of an evaluation? I have no idea what that includes.
We submitted the request. We just
Okay.
need to wait for
Yeah,
staff.
okay. And again, I apologize. It was yesterday morning, but you know. And then, and it just interesting, you love statistics. You state right in there, and
Anonymous too, yeah.
yeah, whoever, right, so time together. So it's stated in here, and I know enough, it says 5.35 average times a person has to enter substance abuse treatment. So of the 30, my question is, of the 31 graduates you have listed there, how many are on their 5th time, 4th time? You know, what's our statistics? Is it really, you know, that's unfortunate. I know it takes multiple times to get somebody off of something, but where are we on, we pat our back, say we got 31 graduates, but are they on their 2nd time, 3rd time, or is it just one and done? Again, and I don't know answer, and I don't need answers today, but I would like some follow-up where we're at with that kind of statistic. You
Okay,
put it
yeah.
in there, so
Yep.
you drew my attention to it, so I want to know where we're at.
We can-
I
yeah.
already made that request.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you, Commissioner,
Yep.
Commissioner Holt, no. Administrator
You know,
Holt, yeah, okay.
Multiple hats.
And again, I apologize, I asked yesterday morning, I mean, for
understand.
these
Yeah,
information,
yeah,
but
yeah.
yeah, we'll follow up with
Just one
that.
more quick thing.
Commissioner Bagley?
Thank you.
And then you, Commissioner Elson?
With those good points duly noted, I'll move to approve item which had been item 5.2.
I'll second it. Is that it?
Yep.
Commissioner Elson?
Yeah, I just go back to, you know, the alternate uses. I mean, do we have a definitive area that somebody else might be interested in this money? I'm kind of interested to see myself where this RAP program goes. If it continues, I think it's a year by year situation, you know, to see how well this does, but kind of one of those, keep a close eye on it. Because obviously we, you know, that it, keep an eye on it, but see where it goes. So I'm willing to move forward on the motion. So.
Anything else?
I will move forward, but I'm watching and I'm concerned and it's on the record that we need to, I would like to see, and maybe I can access it, that Exhibit E.
It's actually on our website, I
Yeah.
believe.
Is it? Okay, I'm gonna go look for it and see what,
With the settlement documents, yeah.
okay,
Mhm, mhm.
okay.
And maybe we can have Gwen Herbert, the executive director, come give us, I know that she's given us a report in the past, and an update on the RAP Plus and give us some of the statistics that we've been talking about.
Yeah, and I'd also like to note, because we are in the process of signing off on another settlement. It's gonna be, it's kind of, they call it the remnants, which is the last few opioid distributors, if you want to call it. So it's not gonna be as much money, but it's still another addition to that pile of, you know, money supposedly through 18 years, and it's helped a lot.
And if someone can confirm that this expenditure is covered by the list of things that we're allowed to do, that would be great. I support this. In a year as we're talking about next year and already having budget meetings, and when we know that we are in trouble and need to reduce expenses, the ability to rely on not the levy to fund programs that are so successful, I think is really important, because I'd rather keep these programs going. I know that we have several million in that account right now because they've given us the money in advance. So I don't know if it's the 18 years or the 25 years, but if we keep it to the 180,000 a year, I mean, I think this is I appreciate the option of being able to use this expenditure. Anybody else? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the fund portion of RAP Plus with opioid settlement funds, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you very much.
I just have one,
Commissioner Elsing?
one comment on that. One of the things that just comes to mind when we get, I guess, forwarded this money, is there a way that we could, I guess, legally and safely invest it and use the interest draw to continue to fund a particular program rather than depleting the program and exhausting the ability for it to generate a reoccurring income?
Administrator Volpe?
We actually did do the homework on that when Mr. Elliott was here, so I'll have to pull that.
You see where I'm going with that?
Sure.
Right.
And then we can cap what it is that we give and learn to live with it, because that could be an indefinite
Sure,
gift,
the retirement fund,
rather
4%
than
every year.
what we see most people do is, hey, let's go buy a whole bunch of stuff and yay, we have money. Let's turn it into something that the gift that keeps giving.
Thanks. Okay, next item, 6.1, 2025 real estate highlights and 6-year land sale report. That's Mr. Bamanek. And there are handouts. If those of you in the audience, I think they're on that chair right there, in case you want to follow along.
Madam Chair, Commissioners, and everyone this morning, good morning, and I'm pleased to be here. You have had some really long agendas. We're a little bit further behind getting some of this information to you, and it's just for that reason. 2025 was a very historic year for Winona County real estate. It is the first time in our county history that the most sales in a range reached 200 to 250,000. For years and years and years, it's been 150 to 200,000. It is a very clear indicator of the higher sale prices and the higher values that Winona County homes are having and experiencing. We had the highest number of sales this past year, 558. That was only up 5 from 24, but when there were no homes available for people wanting to buy, or let's just say practically no homes, we wondered if we could even come close to the number that were sold the year before. Saw 5 more being very, very positive. Another figure to look at is that during October and November, the sales that we had, 85% were sold above the county market value. And the commissioners know well that the last 3 years, value has been pushed up almost as high as we can. And still the sale prices are beyond that. And it all comes down to just availability. We had 43 rural sales. There's 2.5 pages if you'd like to take a look in the handout today. And doing that because we had very few similarities between sales. They were all over the place. Some of them mixed properties. We had a couple with timber, but then there was some other land thrown in. And to get comps, it was a very, very challenging year. We had 37 commercial sales, and 2 of them clearly indicate the value of land on the east side of Winona. On Frontenac Drive, which is the main thoroughfare in front of Walmart, on the north side of the street, there's a strip mall. It just sold for $5,720,000. The sale price was up significantly. The Verizon store nearby has a small parking lot. The store and the parking lot together sold for $1,460,000. The talk in a lot of the publications in the real estate arenas were that homes were having bigger jumps in sale prices than our commercial over a big geographic area. This would be an exception to that, a big exception. All right, it was also quite an exceptional year and extremely positive year for both Lewiston and St. Charles. Lewiston had 24 sales, usually 12 to 15 is about the norm for them. So very, very positive. They only had 2 sales that were 100,000 or less out of 24 total. And on those 2, one was exactly 100,000. So that's very positive. The sale prices are in your packet and may want to take a quick look at those. In St. Charles, they had 50 sales. There were no sales under 100,000, but there was one at 100,000 even. Very, very positive time for St. Charles. And I did an average on the month of November. I took an average of a group in the city of Winona and then also a few in St. Charles. The numbers do not correspond, but the average tells a story. There were 19 sales in the city of Winona that I put together. The average on those 19, and they weren't picked, they were just taken at random. The average was 231,000. 8 sales at St. Charles, just picked at random, 361,000. Clearly an indication of the value at St. Charles. I've done a number of programs, St. Charles and Lewiston, and at each program, someone comments about their thoughts of saving 1/3 of the sale price for a comparable home in Rochester by going to St. Charles. And then one person one evening said, and Bob, the best of all hasn't even been mentioned. He said, I love my job. And he said, when I go to work in the morning, the sun is on my back. And when I come home at night, it's on my back. And he said, I very much enjoy the drive to Rochester and living in Winona County in St. Charles. And I share that with you because I wasn't the only person to make that comment. St. Charles has a lot of people looking at it. It has a lot to offer. And one of the things that St. Charles did when I was in high school, they laid out a water and sewer plan that no one else had even thought about. And that has got a payback today in St. Charles that puts them in the front seat that they are. All right, during the past year, Commissioner Vagley asked about the number of landowners in Winona County and what percentage of them were living in Winona County. Well, we were at a 5.5-year time span. We did that and we shared that information with everyone. We said when the end of the year came, we would update that. So here's the update in your packet for 6 years, the most recent 6 years. We took 2 groupings, over 100 acres and then under 100 acres. The over 100 acres, the sales for these 6 years now, 66% of the owners had Winona County addresses. And then on the bigger group, over 100 acres, there were 217. And in this group, 74% had Winona County addresses. So I think that we were certainly not in the 100% range, but I think those are positive percentages. And then we will continue to update that so we can have maybe at mid-year an update on those numbers.
Thank you for that.
All right. And any questions from anyone?
Oh, no, I just, something I've been saying for how long and living in Altura, Lewiston and St. Charles for 30 some years between those 3 communities. It's even back when I was a mayor back in the 2000s in Altura, I always said, hey, it's a mushroom. And how far out does the mushroom grow? And so, we saw that already happening as land values were going up in communities closer. And there was always it's cheaper to live in Winona County on the tax basis. Why are you skipping Dover? Why are you skipping Eota? Why not Byron? Why not Stewartville? Why are you coming here? And it's cheaper. The taxes are cheaper. I can build the same house cheaper and I can tax it cheaper. And that is a massive draw, knowing many, many people. Why is Utica growing? You know, why did they sell all those lots? It's the mushroom effects. When I was the mayor of Altura, I always said we have to prepare for the overflow because that's what's coming. And now we're really seeing it in Lewiston and Utica, especially Utica, because you can build there cheap. The water's cheap. The taxes are cheap. So, you know, this has been going on for how many years? And obviously it's an overflow from Olmsted County. But there is a definitive attractiveness to the west side of the county, and we're seeing it move and creep closer to the center of the county as St. Charles, I guess. I'm not going to call it it's not affordable to live there or unaffordable to live there. There we go. It's just, there is no doubt. I drive up and down the streets, obviously, I have rental properties, and I think back 15 years ago where I'm like, man, that house was 85,000. I could have bought that one for 55. I could have bought this one for 65. You can hardly touch anything for under 200,000 now. So, woulda, coulda, shoulda, but there's no doubt it is hard to find what I'm going to say, inexpensive housing on the west side of the county right now because there's just a demand. So, and we need to protect that. It's a resource.
Maybe one comment for the first of the year. We've had a very, very trying time, but still homes are selling. We are recording the documentation. And we've seen a number of parties from the attorneys, the bankers, the sellers, the buyers coming together and working out agreements between them so they could move the ownership of the home forward. The sad part is that if a party does not want to continue an agreement because the deadline has come, they can probably turn it around and sell it for significantly more in just this very short period of time. So it is extremely challenging time for buyers.
Your word. Oh, if you're not, only if you're done.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Then you can-
Thank you, Bob. I do share this with people across the state of Minnesota and they say, you get this kind of report from I said, yeah, it's valuable and they're very impressed. So thank you.
Set the bar, Bob.
Yeah. One of the discussions at the recent AMC Ledge Conference is especially in the bigger metro counties, is the shift from you drive around and you see a lot of commercial properties being built, big buildings, but then you see a lot of commercial properties sitting empty. And there's a big concern, and we have some, you know, look around our neighborhood, of the shift of being that the value of those big commercial properties has dropped dramatically, is the shift, as we all know, will come to residential or, you know, the ag lands. And that is something to be aware of, how that happens. But also, you know, you talk about these values, we talk about how horrible the property tax system is for the ability to pay. These values just keep compounding. And so the valuation has contributed greatly to the problem, not only our tax, you know, the amount of levy we request, but how these values have increased over the, you know, the years. And as our senior citizens, which I'm one, when I bought my property, it was worth virtually nothing. Now they think I'm a millionaire. And I am, and on paper. But there's discussion of how do we balance that for especially our senior citizens that own these properties and you know, they deal with the increasing values when they're on fixed income. So there is a lot of discussion about the tax system. If it will be resolved, it's very doubtful. But I will, if Commissioner Vagley would like to note that, yes, I live in the most expensive probably township of Winona. There is another one for sale. If you like solar panels, you can buy it. It's a beautiful house up on Apple Bluff. It's actually Dresbeck, I believe.
Yep.
Up on the river, scenic Apple
I've
Blossom
got
Drive.
the view.
The Blue House?
The Blue House, I
Yeah,
think.
so that's actually relation.
Oh,
George and Judy.
yeah,
Yeah.
okay. Well,
George, he just passed.
when I could buy it and live there, I wouldn't
just
move
passed.
out of my district. I mean, but
Yeah.
he didn't want to.
They were super nice people.
Yeah, very nice. But again, and you talk about absentee ownership. So that big one that was sold in New Hartford, that's somebody from Wisconsin that bought it, you know, owned it and then bought it. So there's a big,
Commissioner Vagley, and then
so
you,
that figure, take that 10 million out of there and it's not as bad as what we think it is. But
I'm
thank
glad that
Bob.
you brought that up, Marcia, because that sale, 1,100 acres,
That's got to be thrown out. It's
well, it'll be thrown out, but it's still being talked about. In this past week, I just did a program almost entirely on that for a big group in Lewiston. The questions that we get, they're not necessarily in sync with the time of the sale. The talk goes on for some time. And we've had interest and we've had every question imaginable. And maybe one of the questions that I had to sit down with a senior. I was doing a program for over 50 at one of the churches in Winona. And one of the elderly ladies came in just a little bit late. And she said, Mr. Bamanek, she said, what am I going to do? She said, with those sales, I'm not going to be able to pay my taxes. The sales she was talking about are the sales that are only a block from the courthouse. And this question comes up repeatedly. They are not going to enter into your residential values because it is an entirely different use. And that will negate that from being included. And that particular senior was probably the happiest person that was going home that evening. But the questions that come up, they're all related to real estate, but people are really thinking, they're really looking. And I'll just share one last comment with you. I am a huge proponent of working with realtors. There's too many little quirks in the system not to have that very professional help. When we had a couple of cases where people were wanting to do this on their own, and I said to them, I said, why don't you look at the sales, see if you can find some properties, some homes that are similar to yours, make a list, and then talk to your realtor. I said, he's going to be impressed and you're going to feel better about it. We've got a whole bunch of people doing that now, seniors. And what's fun is to sit in the background and listen. Oh yeah, Jake, he's got the extra garage, but we got the big deck, and it just goes on and on. People are looking very, very closely and trying to do the absolute best they can when they're trying to purchase. Thank you.
Commissioner Bakey and then Commissioner Elsing. So maybe don't go away so fast.
Well, I also want to thank you for the work that you do and for this report. This is very helpful. I actually share it with my brother who lives in Eau Claire. He's an appraiser. He does residential, commercial, industrial. And he's also impressed that you share this with the county board. And especially, I know that the ransomware attack impacted everybody, but I know it really impacted your office. So thank you for
No,
producing.
we're not done yet.
Yeah, and thank you for producing anything at this time. I didn't ask you this question ahead of time, so I don't expect an answer, but I'll follow up with an email. Is if it's possible, could we get Commissioner Ward mentioned those outliers, those large, if we could look at the median price for like residential, tillable and woods, could I get that from you later on, and I'll email you, because usually your reports have that, and I didn't ask you ahead of time, so there's no reason for you to know, but I think statewide, the median price for a house is now 400,000 for a residential. But I'm curious what it is in Winona County. That includes the metro area, which throws everything off. So I'm curious what the median residential home.
We'll have that. We will have that.
Thank you. And I just want to thank you again for this is very helpful for a full range of people. And like Commissioner Ward said, we all feel bad because so often what drives higher taxes is the higher valuations of the properties. And if you look, if you skim through the list, the estimated market value and the sales price, almost every time the sale price is much higher than the estimated. So the county is not over assessing, not overtaxing. So that is a concern moving forward. Thank you, Bob.
Commissioner Elsing.
Yeah, good point to that. But I will say, oftentimes, having bought and sold many properties, is that we use the tax basis as a bar to a certain extent. So as we raise these values, it artificially pushes affordable housing up with it, because that is the way it works. So it's being careful what we do with these taxes, because it ultimately has an effect on what people can afford to buy. So the second thing is, Commissioner Ward brought up a point. As we see these larger and larger commercial buildings, what's happening in our small towns? It's getting almost impossible to cash flow the commercial sectors. It's what's drying up, because we're using the basis of what this population has versus what that population has to support the same building. I always say the cost of my front door is the same cost as the guy that has 4 times the traffic. but I got to figure out how to pay the same $5,000. And that's the difficult part. And that's why you're seeing small town USA dry up, because we're using things categorically rather than systematically, geographically to determine values. And that is a detriment to our small communities and businesses trying to stay in. You say, well, what's a couple $1,000s? That's huge. And I do go to the chamber meetings in Lewiston. I talk to the business owners all over. We belong to the NFIB with the small business stuff. And it's the common consensus that the large buildings that are going up that are determining a value or determining anything, or as the big businesses come into play, they can absorb cost through purchase, how they purchase. A lot of businesses don't have that, especially the small businesses. So as we get excited about these, my flag goes up because I represent rural, I represent myself, I represent what I see happening all throughout 9 states that we cover for my company as I drive around and drive down Main Street USA, and it's dead because they can't compete. So I think we need to be very, very cautious on how we evaluate things and how we look at things, because it is part of the compounded problem of small town USA drying up. So.
Thank you. Anyone else? Thank you so much for the
Thank you.
presentation, Bob.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. I'm not for sale, Bob. Don't send them, I get postcards every day. They want to buy or sell for me. No, I'm not for sale.
You have a big meeting this evening.
Yes, New Hartford Township meetings.
Our annual township meetings are this evening. For many, there's a few in the afternoon. But there's an invitation out to all of you to stop in if you can do that.
Thanks, Bob.
Next item is item 6.2, receive update on Minnesota City School property. Are we getting an update today?
Ms. Wilbright is on.
Okay. Auditor Treasurer Wilbright is online. There she comes.
Sorry, I couldn't unmute myself. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. We just got communication back from the attorney team. We're reviewing it at this point to see what the next steps are. So I apologize, I don't have more of an update for you right now. My focus is tax calc, as well as today is March Township Election Day. So I need to be available for them as well. But the hard focus right now is tax calc, but we are pushing that forward as well. The
Ms. Wilbright, could you
forfeitures.
describe the issue?
What do you mean?
What
Property.
the issue is
Trying to sell it, right?
with the property in Minnesota City?
After the Tyler versus Hennepin case, we needed to wait to figure out what the process was for those legacy parcels, if you will, the ones that were forfeited 23 and prior. And then there's a different process going forward from now forward. And that's what we're trying to zoom in on and figure out exactly what we need to do for those legacy parcels, what we needed to have done as far as notifications, etc. That is also very hard to determine right now, since we don't have access to some of the files to see what had been already done. So there's a little bit of rework there, but then trying to figure out the next steps for these legacy parcels, if you will.
Great. Commissioner Elsing has some questions?
Yeah, maybe I'll dive into it a little bit more. I think the real concern from the residents of Minnesota City is that if you look at their infrastructure, this is a big deal to them. And the issue is this is drug out for many, many years. And what's happened is we're lumping it into a sum with other buildings that, if I could, mention, if there's something in Winona that might not be a big deal because that one building in the grand scheme of things isn't much to all the residents. But in Minnesota City, they don't have the same collective pool of resources. So this is their big deal. And we're throwing it in with a pool that probably isn't a big deal. And they've been very patient for many, many years trying to figure this out. And what's happening is we have an eyesore, a resource for them that could be big in their community is sitting there and it's dilapidating. And it just keeps getting pushed by the wayside. So what I've asked for is in their small community, because this is a big thing to them, maybe a small thing to everybody else. But hey, is there a way we could expedite this and get this one small thing done? Because although in the grand scheme of the county and other larger cities, it may not be, but it's important to them and they don't have much else. So, and I don't mean that in a despairing or negative way. It's just, this is a big deal. So I brought it attention again because it's been a number of years, 13 years, I think, 6 years under the county, whatever it's been. It's time. It's time to move it forward. And the building is getting in disrepair. And it's going to come to a point where now it just becomes a liability, knock it down instead of turning it into apartments or all the things that they've talked about potentially trying to do. So the longer we keep kicking the can down the road, the opportunity for that community to try to do something with that building is just basically gone. And I don't think there's going to be anybody that's going to want to come in. And once you get past a certain point, there's no saving it. So this is a massive thing for them, and I can't seem to get the traction to get it fixed. So that's what's really going on.
Administrator Holte?
I,
Oh, just a second, Chelsea, and we'll come back to you.
no problem.
Thanks.
With all due respect, there are many things that have impacted moving this forward. It's not that we haven't heard the concerns. There are many individuals that are part of the equation of getting this done. We don't have control over everyone's schedule or how they may prioritize the work. But we are focused on moving this forward. I do have to respect Ms. Wilbright's deadlines for tax calc. But I do hear you, Commissioner Olson, and we will move this forward.
Auditor Treasurer Wilbright, and then we'll come back to you, Commissioner Elson.
Maureen kind of hit it on the head there. There's not enough man hours to get all my responsibilities done. It is, I have to prioritize, and I have to prioritize tax calc right now. It's another election year. I don't want to kick it down the road either, but every day I have to prioritize what needs to get done. And right now it's making sure I don't have to send out 4,000 plus adjusted tax statements. We need to my team is taking the time to proof everything without all of our proofing tools that we had. So it's going to take a little more time than normal.
Mr. Elson, go ahead.
Yeah, none of this, I realize there's a little bit of an algorithm or a priority here, but the reality of it is that this didn't just start 2 months ago. And so if I don't keep pushing, when I first got on, it was one of the first things, I went to their township. This was their major concern. I brought it up. It got kicked down the can the first year, the second year, the third year. And if we don't, it's just that's why it's drug out for so many years. And they're saying, hey, come on here. At some point, we have to become the priority. We can't keep letting everything else come in front of us. So this isn't like this was 2 months ago, this got brought up. This has been brought up for years. And
I understand that.
So what I'm doing is finally saying, all right, you've had 3 years. 3 years, I've sat patient. And nobody came back to me with anything. So I'm just simply saying, all right, we need to bring this up and I'm going to make focus on this. And the first thing I was told was, well, we're waiting to pool group it in with a whole bunch of other things. And it was just another kick the can down the road. And now today it's, hey, I got to do this. And at some point, this has to become priority very soon so that these people can have some reconciliation on what they've been overly patient to make happen. So that's the point of it.
County Attorney Sullivan, you have the floor.
Thank you. I just wanted to speak to the fact that as Administrator Holte said, there's really a lot of moving parts in this. And among them are things that are out of our control. There was a tax forfeiture case that happened in Hennepin County that threw everything into how should I say, threw a lot of wrenches. And we're trying to deal with that to make sure, and we didn't have a lot of property that was affected by that. In fact, I'm not sure we had just one, but then the legislature made changes. And in my office, we have put together a memo. Assistant County Attorney Steve Krantz has done that, and that he was able to finish that. I mean, we've got a lot of demands on our time too, but he was able to finish that yesterday. And so it's a memo talking about the process to sell current inventory of tax forfeited land, which includes the Minnesota City property. So we will be moving forward with the administrator's office and with Ms. Wilbright and her office to address these. There's 4 other properties too. So thank you.
Any other discussion?
Madam Chair, could
Uh, Commissioner Bagley, and then I'm gonna go to you.
How about if we let Mr. Van
Okay,
Balen
go ahead,
first?
come ahead.
Thank you.
I'm going to just share this with you. This past weekend, I worked a long day of overtime with one of the staff in my office. And because we didn't have all the interruptions, the staff person was able to complete 2 weeks of recordings. And we were able to do that, and it's entirely because Chelsea and her office worked overtime. They met us. We have to have a dual signature from the auditor and from the recorder. And there's a lot of good reasons why, and her side is primarily taxes. So I want you to know that we all have a lot, there are a lot of requests out there, especially right now. And I think that we're all putting a lot of effort in. We have gotten some nice comments back. I just want to come today and tell you that, but we have, and we are diligently working on a number of projects. The cyber attack is still kind of up front. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Van Beek.
Thanks, Bob.
Commissioner Bagley, and then you again, Mr. Commissioner Elson.
So the question, I guess, for Commissioner Elsing and Ms. Holte is there something that you think that can happen to get it done? Or do we maybe ask the staff, like, what would it take? And it might require additional, some kind of funds, because I understand that the existing staff is maxed out, et cetera. But is there something you'd like to see? I agree with you. This should be taken care of.
Yeah, this isn't, this,
How we wrap
yeah,
it up.
good, great, thank you. And, you know, this is it. I mean, what it boils down to is this. Everything else is taking precedent. Everything, every project, everything, every tax thing. All the people in Minnesota City says, when's is our turn? We've waited for years, 13 years. When do we go to the forefront? Another 13 years, when do we become important enough to get this done? This is a big deal to us. When is it important enough to you to be important for us? And that's the question. So what I'm doing is putting pressure on it, saying we can't keep kicking it to the background. We can't wait till we dissolve every other problem that we have, and everything else has got to go in front of it. Tell me anybody else that's waited that long to resolve an issue. It's got to be very, very rare. So I've been patient. I've been patient as their representative for 3 years, and there was nothing brought up. And finally, I just brought it up again and said, hey, what are we going to do? Put 3 more years of stuff in front of this again? That doesn't make sense. We need to make it a priority to some extent, within reason, but it has to come to the front. We can't keep kicking it to the back. That's all I'm trying to do.
Anything else? Commissioner Ward.
Just so the public understands what's going on here, it's a property that's been foreclosed on. And the law that Attorney Simon referred to is, it used to be you could just turn a property after such a length of time and we'd have a sheriff's sale. And it would be back on the tax rolls, somebody would buy it and move on. Well, the law changed in that a participant, they sold in the metro area, sold a condo or something. And heaven forbid the county made a profit. But you couldn't keep that profit and really, was it a profit? No, because a lot of time, energy, and money spent on doing this job, but they made a profit on that individual parcel. And so then the person who owned it last wanted a percentage of that profit. So that complicated, you said wrenches. No, we threw a lot of nuts and bolts in the system, but they didn't provide us the wrenches to get the job done.
Big wrench.
Yeah. But that's what it is, a state law that changed. And I agree, it needs to be handled, but that was part of the complicating process.
Well aware of all that.
Well,
What I'm doing.
for the
yeah.
public to know.
Yeah, well aware of all that. The idea is that nobody's putting it into perspective, the importance this is to their
to a
community in comparison to another community that one building absorbed is no big deal.
Right.
That's the difference. And they're looking at one of their major community resources that they have for development, tax value, everything else sitting there deteriorating, and nobody wants to talk about it.
Yep.
And I'm just trying to keep it going so these guys can do something with it. Thank you.
The item in our packet is
Just
to
an
have a
update.
discussion. It seems as if you probably did not get an update, even though we did have a discussion. Did you want to table this for a future
Yeah,
meeting so that it comes back?
I don't think there is anything that there's no decision to be made by the board. I just wanted it brought to light that we have to, as a group, have a consensus to, hey, as we guide and talk to the administrator in the county, like, can we somehow make this a little bit of a focus, just like we've done with other things, to say, hey, can we focus on this or that? So the idea is not to create a motion or force anything. It's just to continue to highlight the need to get this done
Cross it off the to-do list.
at some
Put it
point
on
in the
the
relatives future, so that little community can move on with life and keep trying to generate stuff.
Okay, so you consider it resolved? I mean,
consider it
resolved.
No, no.
Yeah.
And I can bring it back up again.
Okay, all right. So-
Chair Meyer, I think
Mr.
that
Bailey.
Chelsea wanted to,
Oh, thank you for pointing that out. And Auditor Treasurer Wilbright, did you want to share some thoughts?
Uh, I was just gonna clarify it, forfeiture versus foreclosure. There may have been a little confusion with Commissioner Ward's statement. Foreclosure is when the mortgage doesn't get paid, and those go to sheriff's sale. Forfeiture is when the taxes don't get paid, and those don't go to sheriff's sale, they go to auction through my department.
And that's what this is.
That's-
Yep. No problem.
Thank you for that clarification.
Commissioner Bailey?
and I appreciate what Commissioner Ward did. It's good to summarize it for the public and for people, or just to remind us where we are in this process. And I also think 13 years is a long time to wait. I've been waiting 22 years to help speed up a license center, and that's partially on me, partially on staff. So that's something that I'm partially responsible for as well too. That hasn't happened, but that's a different issue there. I could see that needs to take place, because that would create a positive ripple effect, is that once that could be renovated, sold, et cetera, in terms of that small community. So, but I also agree that it would take either maybe some more staff time or dedicated somehow. We can't ask the staff. But it should be moved to the top of the pile, and it might require.
To a certain extent, I'm not
Yeah,
asking this we're not life and death, but it's,
yeah, I agree with you.
in one aspect it is, because this building's gonna be going beyond repair.
Yeah.
And then that little community is gonna lose a tax asset that they want to try to save. And there's not too many people looking to put up monstrosities or anything in these small communities. So they're just trying to save themselves.
Yeah, I actually agree with you. If that wasn't clear, I think that we should try to get it done.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so we're not bringing this back until a certain point when you might suggest to bring it back.
I'm just trying to bring it to light.
Great,
Yes.
okay. Moving on to item 6.3, discuss potential contribution to homeless shelter. Commissioner Bailey, did you want to kick us off?
I could begin, or Ms. Holte or Ms. Chafee, do you guys want to start in terms of summarizing the documents that you provided, or should I? Either way.
Ms. Chafee?
Okay.
It's a little taller than me. Good morning. So in front of you or in your packet was information in which I believe this came forward in November originally.
Yeah.
And there was some discussion about how to proceed and do some research behind the scenes. So what you have in front of you is the first document would be a memo or a kind of a synopsis of what was done. And then also you have some notes from a meeting that I had with Washington County. And also you have what Gwen from CJCC put together, Gwen Herbert, around the housing continuum. The reason we wanted to look at some of this was to best understand what problem are we solving with the funds, and what are we trying to do with those funds, and how does that all fit together? So with that, really trying to look at the full picture of what is available in our community and what are the gaps or what are the needs, and also thinking about overall, what is our long-term goal and focus in addition to a short-term addressing of an issue. And so what you had in front of you was a synopsis of that, as well as the research completed, the general findings, and potential options listed on the back. In addition, post these documents, I believe, Chair Myers, you had some questions, and we brought forward some information on SAHA funding. And Commissioner Vagley, you also had some questions, and we had some points made around that, and some numbers were provided in terms of the number of people that have been served by the shelter. So with that, the question I think coming forth is, how do we want to proceed if we were to fund it, knowing the realities of the situation that we have with funding in general? Is this a crisis need of, if we don't do this, what happens? And what is our long-term thought process around how to actually support what I was impressed with, to be honest with you, in the continuum of housing services available in the community? And so with that, we have options, and I have to be very clear, there is not additional resources from county employees to offer up to provide some of the things that would be useful. It just isn't present right now. And we'll be talking about a number of those things as we move forward with the budget and other pieces. But so the options include the Catholic charity request of $15,000. This would cover costs for 2026 only, is my understanding, and Commissioner Vagley, you can correct me. There's overlap with other services that we do, and you can see that through the housing continuum, that many of those services are coordinated through us, and/or funding streams come from other levels, and we are a gatekeeper for those said services to some degree, and ensuring that tax funds are being used appropriately. We could utilize levy dollars to fund the service. For people experiencing homelessness, it would be an additional cost. We could apply for grants. I will tell you, and you could probably see that from the Washington County notes, that all requires infrastructure over time, okay? And so the infrastructure is a big piece in a challenge that comes with the services, because just because a person is experiencing homelessness, that is not their only challenge. It is a very complex issue. In addition, being in a position of being homeless does not make you like every other person who is homeless. So the complexity of the challenge is certainly there. We could use existing resources, but we would need to redirect those resources and stop doing a non-mandated service to meet the needs. We could apply for a recovery core support position. We have one right now. And I put in a request for 2, and I put in a request for that to be reduced. I can back out of that second one at any point in time, so that we could help support that process. In addition was the SAHA funding. And I believe, Commissioner Vagley, you made some statements this morning as well. So I will pause there for any questions or additional input.
Yeah, I did just want to say this. I had asked if, so we get the SAHA money in 2 payments, one that's early in the year and then one in December. So the 2025 amount was 57,588. And the question that I had asked is, did we allocate both portions of that to Semtra's Housing Trust Fund?
We did not.
We did not. So we actually have funds that we would have received for SAHA in the bank. And even if it was just the 1/2 year, that's still like almost $29,000. So we would not have to use levy funds. And the research from back in May of last year.
Yes.
Finance director Chuck
Elliot.
thank you. Had indicated that this would be an appropriate use. Okay, now, so Commissioner Ward, Commissioner Elsing?
Yeah, a question, again, societal problems at the expense of basic services. And counties are, supposed to be basic services. And this is not, we're not unique in this problem. But I appreciate you reaching out to Washington County, because they're pretty progressive.
Yes.
Washington County is outer metro, but it's huge.
Yes.
And it has it's got a very diverse population. So thank you for, not trying to recreate the wheel using
Right.
somebody else's wheel. So I see this blank $15,000 request. What is that for? Because I've heard, I think it states in here, services or something like that. And then I've also costs, 15,000 costs. What are the costs? And then I also have heard that somebody is looking at remodeling a church for future use. And again, If it's one-time money, is it ongoing money? Is it something that's, if it's just cost, it's spent and it's gone. If it's remodeling an existing structure that would go into the future, that has some play in my decision-making. I don't know what the 15,000 request is for. I didn't see it. Maybe I missed it.
Do you want to answer, Jill, or should I?
Yes, please. No, you go ahead.
Okay, so to answer those questions, and after they're done, I also want to jump in as well.
Sure, okay.
So the original request
Councilman, you're
from
next,
John
right?
Myers, Executive Director of Catholic Charities.
You know,
In the original request, it talked about funds. The, now don't ballpark estimate, the two shelters, the budget's about, we'll say $260,000. I reviewed some of the emails from before. And what the request was for extended hours and extended year. And to make the shelter, especially the night shelter, go for a longer period of time and extended hours. And a little bit more staff time allows us to leverage more volunteer time. And actually, I see online that the Reverend John Spinillo is actually online. And I'm not asking him a direct question, but one of the two churches that has been hosting the two shelters this year, we have St. Paul's Episcopal Church, and then we have Wesley United Methodist Church. There is currently no plans for large remodeling. There was just utilities being paid through this season, if that's a short answer to your questions. But
So
the original.
No creation of a permanent facility.
No,
Okay.
that's actually an ongoing problem, but that's beyond the scope of this $15,000.
Mhm.
Did I answer those questions?
Unfortunately, yes.
Okay,
So it's just $15,000 for
right now.
staff.
for the, well, staffing staffing that allows for more hours, basically it moved from, it's 24-hour coverage right now, between the day shelter and the night shelter, and the all Catholic Charities, which is the shelters. I'm anticipating Commissioner Elsing's comments and concerns, which are very valid ones about county taxpayer dollars supplanting private charity, individual donations. The shelter runs on roughly 2/3 state grants, 1/3 donation model, plus or minus. And in Winona County, the only two shelters that exist, those are the numbers that I shared this morning. What a little investment of staff does in terms of how it leverages a lot more community volunteer time. I think this is the best of both worlds. But the $15,000 basically is also part of the larger budget request and the larger goal to create 24-hour services and also to create a case manager position, not through the county, but through Catholic Charities. Like in Washington County, I mentioned the street outreach to do more proactive work to get people better. Then this is outside of RAP, outside the county, to do case manager work. And they've just hired 2 months ago at the executive committee of the shelters, which I'm on. They mentioned they finally hired a case manager to do that kind of outreach work, which is not part, it is true, it is not part of, this is not a mandated service from the state. I believe that we have a moral obligation in terms of the core function. Now I'm over answering your question of public welfare and public safety, but if that answers your question.
$15,000 are these people are pretty much for how many months
Right
are they
now,
going to continue this?
the day center
That doesn't pay much wages.
It doesn't. This is 15,000 is less than 6% of the overall budget.
But how long are you wanting to keep this emergency shelter open? Last meeting you mentioned some dates.
The day center is year round. The night shelter, this is part of the later community board agenda, unless another shelter is found. The overnight shelter will end on March 31st, which has been the practice ever since 2017, when the shelters first
Just
began.
winter months.
And
For-
a
for the-
15
For the night shelter,
and a $15,000 does what?
$15,000 is part of the overall budget in terms.
Oh, it doesn't increase, it doesn't put it out into April or May.
That,
Or-
the reason that's going to close on March 31st versus April, end of April, is the money would have helped extend it into April. Is there some building issues,
There are plumbing problems.
plumbing problems at Wesley that are becoming.
I understood Commissioner Elsing did not want the floor, so I'm gonna come back to you for your own comments.
No, this is,
Yeah, oh, you do? Oh,
no,
sorry.
I can speak. I'm learning, trying to wrap my head around the need. There's a noble cause around every corner. that's the reality of it, is that everybody's cause is greater than the next or equal to. And the difference here is, again, forcefully taking it from people rather than willingly giving it. And that's what we do and have the power given to us to do. So we go from charity to forcing. It's a forced grab to fund things. So again, we could march 100 noble causes into the door and everybody says, hey, this is all noble, moral, put a fancy word to it. Again, we look at what are we required to do as government. The moral thing that I have is taking money from people that may not have it to give to other people that don't have it also, that are saying, hey, I'm just barely getting by. My taxes keep going up, my housing, everything keeps going up, groceries, whatever it is. And saying, where do you draw the line? You know, where's that line that this person that's struggling now has to donate to that person that's struggling? So I try to defend the moral on both sides because that's what we're asking to do. We are now taking from people rather than asking them to give. So public philanthropy is something that I struggle with in government and always have. So alluding to your point. However, you know, the compromise that I see here, because if there truly is something, you know, is this the city saying, hey, we no longer want to deal with this, let's make it a county issue, whether that's real or relevant or not. I know one homeless person that I believe is to be homeless in St. Charles. My bigger fear is that it starts with 15. It gets posted in the paper, the county's funding founding the shelter. Oh, okay, the county's got it. We're done. That's what happens. As soon as government steps in, it is almost, even Rochester's realizing this, that private donations quit when public recognition is that we're paying for it through the tax base. So argue that and prove it to me wrong, because that's the statistics. So, and I always say, how many people walk in to donate a check to the Road and Bridge Committee, or road fund? It doesn't happen. So there's an expectation that it comes out of all the taxpayers. That is my fear, is that if we get involved, we will see a decline in private philanthropy. And I say that wishing it wasn't that way, but that's the real situation. So I think maybe there's a couple of things that I've been thinking about on this to try to help. If we can take it from somewhere else and say, hey, maybe we take a break from some of the SEMCRA, some of this, some of the library, some of something else, and say, hey, are we looking at a one-time seed money to get this thing off and going to help cover the cost and reevaluate it with a promise that it won't be continuing, to get it going or to overcome this short-term deficit, and review this every year, and we don't add to the levy, we take it from another organization to pay for it.
Allison, how would you feel about using the SAHA funds?
Yeah, so the SAHA funds could be one of them, but we might not all agree on that, right? Or we could agree on that. I don't know. You know, the SAHA funds, you know,
Otherwise, they go to the Housing Trust Fund for Central.
correct, right. That could be one thing, but I don't know how anybody else is going to vote to that, right? So the SAHA fund is one thing. You know, are there other things that we could take it from? I say that so it's on record that we're not just looking at the SAHA fund, but I also don't want to start a precedent that we're going to do this every year. I don't want to raise the levy. I don't want to create a government dependence. And I want the community to know that they have to continue to rally behind this in private philanthropy, because this is not going to become another government entity, because I believe you'll see donations crash.
Commissioner Reagan.
There's a couple different ways to fund the $15,000 request, and County Administrator Holte or Director Chafee can jump in. But to me, I would be supportive of using $15,000 for the SAHA funds. I think it's the biggest bang for the buck in terms of potential impact. Because this isn't just, these shelters are not meant to be anyone's forever home or location. Now, and I cannot promise everyone who comes to a shelter is a homeowner and a taxpayer 1 year later, but there are services and people who surround them that help people get through certain periods of their life, and there are many success stories, et cetera. So I think that'd be the biggest bang for the buck in terms of SAHA, using SAHA funds moving forward.
Commissioner Ward, and then did you have your hand up, Commissioner? Owens?
Okay, Saha Fund. So I sit on the SEMSHA board and we're always, now we have a new executive director. It will be interesting to see where this person takes the organization. Past director, Buffy Baronic, we bailed out the city of Winona a number of times by running the section, doing the administrative work of Section 8. And the city of Winona depends on Section 8 quite, it's important. And it's a federal government. Ms. Bronick used to tell me, well, we'll lose less money. I said, I don't like losing money, but it was spreading the administrative dollars over a larger audience. So we've done that. If I'm not wrong, the Saha dollars also went to the city. City of Winona received some Saha
Yeah, they
dollars
did mine.
separately. So
Yeah, they do.
if we want to use, and our, Saha was established, it says right here, to preserve affordable housing, keep families from losing housing and experience homeless, find housing. So yes and no, but again, the great state of Minnesota has seen fit to cut this in half. Will they continue it? It's questionable. So I would say if we have a $15,000 request in front of us and the Saha dollars that this county gets are supposed to be countywide. And I've always had a bug up, my burr under my saddle that the city of Winona does not pay,
Should say the bug part. What, you bug up? the butt?
bug up my butt about this. I'll say it. It bothers me that the city of Winona does not pay into the SEMSHA levy request. It's outside. Now, the city of Winona is supposed to have the Port Authority. So I think the Port Authority, I don't know what their balance sheet is, but I think there's some money there. So I'd say the county, at most, the county should go half of this 15,000 because it is primarily city focused. I won't have people coming from Dakota or Dresbach to stay because they can't get there. It's prohibitive. So it is primarily a city. So I'm saying that the city should kick in half of this $15,000 request and move forward.
I guess I thought that they had used a portion of their Saha funds from last year for the Warming Center.
Well, this is a new request. So if they did, great. But I mean, and this is coming to us now. And so if they got money, I think they should be kicking in. And I'm hoping this new director will see fit to request money from the city of Winona to run even the Section 8, that we're not operating that at a loss for the city of Winona without them contributing. I apologize.
contribute.
A very small. I think we are asked for 100 and some thousand, and I think they may contribute $4,000 or $5,000. It's pretty,
I'm thinking 5,000.
yeah, it's not anywhere near the same formula.
Commissioner Owens?
So I'd go half and let the city put up the other half.
How do you leverage that? That's why I want the city to have skin in the game because this is, we can argue, hey, we pay for roads out in the country. Well, we like to eat too, and we got to produce the food. So, look at Brazil. Why doesn't Brazil take over America? Which if they ever did, we would all be poor because of the impact agriculture has in the United States. Why doesn't it grow? Because they don't have roads. Why doesn't China grow and produce their own foods? Because they don't have roads. That is why we succeed as a nation, because we've built the infrastructure to be able to feed ourselves and half of the world. So we can't keep using that argument because we eat pretty darn good in order to just go to India or any of these other third world countries, and they don't. So we've built the infrastructure to be able to supply the food. So we can't use that as an argument, but we can say, hey, disproportionately, how big of this is a county problem versus a municipality problem? And, the municipality aspect to it, we've got enough challenges in the small, I just brought up. Why is Walmart and Menards doing so well, but how come every little lumber store and all the other communities have all dried up? There used to be one in Altura too. So why? Because we can't keep absorbing the cost of some of the municipalities' problems. So I go back and I look at this and say, how much have we leveraged to the city that proportionately this is really their issue? I caution on build it and they will come. That's one of the big things that I always say. Hey, there's free help, go to Winona County. There's a free place to stay, go to Winona County. And all of a sudden it disproportionately becomes a problem when they come out of that warming shelter. So again, we've got to be careful with the noble causes. I really look at this and I like the reallocation of fundings. Now I'll have some people that'll argue with me and say, well, you lost, if we could afford to take it from them and give it to somebody else, why didn't we just get rid of it to begin with? That's going to be the argument. I'm going to hear it from a half dozen people. And, but can we look at this as a means to just a one-time help them get by? And again, I am scared for the sake of the shelter for the government to get involved because the headline's going to say government funded shelter. People are going to look at this and say that, oh, that's the one the county pays for. It'll just happen. It happens everywhere. So that's my thoughts on it.
Mr. Reagan.
I understand your concerns. This would be less than 6% of the overall budget. There's not a extra zero behind it. And already 2/3 of the overall shelter budget is public dollars that leverages private donations that then leverages private unpaid volunteers, et cetera. So I hear what you're saying. But I'll make a motion to allocate $15,000 from the current undedicated SAHA funds,
2025 or 2026?
2025.
from the 2025 SAHA
We
funds
actually have that.
to be used in 2026 for the shelter request from Catholic Charities. If there's a better way to state that, let me know.
Comment on it.
I thought we,
I'll second that. Please go. You
Yeah.
you have the floor, Commissioner Elson.
Thank and Dwayne, I know, and I realize it in the grand scheme, it's a small part, but it's public perception. That's what you have to, people aren't gonna recognize it as, if I went out and asked anybody how to fund a highway. The only people that have no clue how they're gonna fund it, and look at the major portion of what that is, they should know how our highways are funded. But if I polled the room, most people aren't gonna know 3-digit, 2-digit numbers, how CASA works, nothing. This major part of what they pay for, they have no idea how it's even funded, let alone paying attention. They're gonna see the government's involved, it's a government thing, I'm out. So that is 6% is noble, but when does it become 20%, 30%? Hey, we can't cut this program off. We've lost the donations. It's now the county's responsibility. I need some sort of guarantee that we're not going to just start pushing this on if public or private philanthropy quits and say, well, this is now we started something, we can't let it go backwards. How are you going to let these people go out? That's my fear, is we're starting another program that exponentially we're going to have to figure out how to fund in the future.
so I'm a little confused. 15,000 out of the 2025, which was the 57,588.
Yeah.
But we gave 25 of that to SEMSHA.
No, we did not.
No. Well, I don't think we've allocated any of it.
Yeah, we did. Housing Trust Fund.
They're using part of their levy,
Yeah, to
To
put in the
pay-
trust fund.
yeah, to
Oh, no, we
administer the
We
SAHA.
did in 20,
We
we did
did.
allocate the 24 in full.
Okay, maybe then I've got
I
my
don't think
years.
We allocated the 25 at all.
Okay, all right.
Did not,
But-
I double checked that.
Okay, but I'll go back to a societal problem. I mean, the SEMSHA organization and their mission is basic needs. And so we're, in a way, cutting off some of our basic responsibilities through that organization, basic services. And again, I would, if we could get the city to pay half, or if this was going to, I mean, it's expenses. But what's the story about, again, it's somebody calling about remodeling the St. Paul's? That there's no plan to remodel, or, I mean, if it was hard structural things that we were doing, but we're just giving them 15,000 to do, I don't,
It was in the original budget proposal that we could be shared with you again.
it's not gonna happen. What's gonna happen next year?
That's actually a big discussion right now. That involves a lot of city
They have
staff
to
hours.
find another.
We have to
place.
find a long-term facility. And right now, that's still a work in progress.
Okay, and I would be, long-term facility, I can see investing in facilities, because that helps out considerably, but just to give them another 15 to do whatever, and again, without the city, without knowing if the city's contributing, I can't support it.
Commissioner Elson.
What's the time frame? I mean, is this
Yeah.
we need it right now? Is this, I mean, can we, we have no city involvement. They basically washed their hands of it, it sounds like.
It's funny because the city thinks that we washed our hands of it because we've never contributed a penny, which is true. And the city has dedicated a ton of staff time to this issue in terms of fire inspectors, building inspectors, their housing specialists, et cetera.
Or being a city, yeah.
Yeah.
In terms of like, this falls, I think they have a valid point. This falls squarely in Health and Human Services in terms of like this function, et cetera. $15,000 is a relatively small ask. It's a small investment for a big return.
Today, yeah. My fear is tomorrow and what it does to private philanthropy and the organization itself. I say it again. We can minimize today's effects and the outlook, but I'm looking down the road, what the scope is going to look like through the barrel and how the community sees this as a government funded shelter. And as the burden gets pushed onto us, as everything falls off, all of a sudden it becomes another major priority for that. And at some point, it even could garner enough attention that state mandate, just like a library says, well, you will do it now because you created a monster.
They almost have.
Exactly. You've created the monster and now you got to feed it. So I'm not against it. It takes it out of the hands of the private aspect in making the decision to donate back. And, that's my fear is it turns into that if we're not careful in how we present our ability to maybe help.
Director Chafee, and then you, Commissioner Ward.
Yes, while we haven't contributed to the shelter, many of the items on the housing continuum are funded through Health and Human Services. So it oftentimes comes as a different source of dollars, but I do want to highlight that in a number of our employees work and authorize some of those services as well. Historically, and I've lived in a couple of different communities where this has been and continues to be an issue, what I heard a lot from folks was, how does the county look at all of the resources and bring them together versus funding individual resources? Because how does that infrastructure, as you noted, Commissioner Elsing, how do we do that to maximize the resources? And so that's why the options set before you are those options. I would also encourage another agency to look at that Recovery Corps opportunity because it's only $10,000 a year for a full-time person for a year. And so just trying to think of different ways to really maximize some of those resources.
Commissioner Ward, are you next up?
I believe so. So,
Never did it.
SEMSHA comes every year to request preliminary levy budget amount. And this last year it was $144,234. And I think that was passed on maybe a 3-2 vote. Again, it's not the city of Winona that pays that, it's the county residents that pay that. So are you willing to, if you want to give 15, are you willing when they come to look for levy requests to reduce it? 15? To allocate, because it's kind of it's all housing.
I was going.
It's all related to housing. So are you willing to
Is it-
reduce?
Is it just the rural people paying that?
Yes.
Right,
It
so
is.
we're
Yeah.
paying for a warming shelter.
Well, if we use,
No,
no,
not-
well.
Not if
no.
we indirectly, indirectly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. The Saha dollars were
Different.
state dollars,
Right.
but they keep cutting it back
But we use that in the total allocation.
Should
So
have.
in essence,
to help.
cut out,
in-
it's gonna put a bigger stress. So in essence, the rural community pays for,
Yeah. So again, is there a commitment to reduce the 2027?
which is where I
preliminary
was
budget?
going. If we reduce,
we
we take out.
15
we replace.
today.
That's why I mentioned other things that we could look at besides just that.
Commissioner Vagley, would you be open to furthering this so we can get an answer on whether the city has contributed
That's why my time-
any SAHA funds?
Sure.
So we have a motion on the floor that was made by you, seconded by me to approve the 15,000.
I don't think the city has dedicated any SAW fund.
I don't think
but
they have
we can
either, but
also-
I can ask.
But we can clarify that. So if it's okay, we'll table it to the next meeting.
So, and would you like to retract your motion? I think
I will retract my motion.
I will accept that. And then would you make a motion to
I'll
table?
make a motion to table it to the next, I think 2 weeks should be enough.
I'll second that. Okay, Commissioner.
I'm not against this. If, what I'm saying is we need to do it correctly for the longevity of the program.
Will that be enough information to make a decision?
We'll see what they say.
Gonna probably be no.
Further discussion?
Well, and I guess a big, like I say, I don't want to just give money because that just the accountability, what that money does and everything. If you really truly are looking at a permanent location, that's critical to my trying to support
That's what
this.
we almost spend almost all our time on, especially right now, the season's winding
Don't
down.
we have enough empty buildings that are are
We'd like to
up-
join that discussion. We'd love to have more eyes.
have a lot of empty buildings in downtown.
What road do you live on?
Downtown Nodi. Yeah, you're an empty nester. I think Commissioner Vagley, you got 2 extra
Well, I
bedrooms,
have
right?
plenty of time.
No,
I'm
bedrooms.
dedicating a lot of time.
No, bedrooms. You have 2
Bedrooms.
empty
Yeah.
bedrooms.
Two's not enough, but
Huh?
that's a start.
It'd help. 2's better than none.
Okay, so there's a motion on the table to table this until I think our next meeting, as made by Commissioner Vagley, seconded by Commissioner Meyer. Further discussion. Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Is anyone opposed? Say nay. Okay, motion carries. We'll bring this back up at our next meeting. Okay, that is the last agenda item. We move on to comments. Commissioner Elson?
I just wanted to remind everybody, you're gonna start to see a little farm equipment moving around and it's something I'll bring up every week. For until probably the end of the year, but just, you know, as you see farmers moving equipment and planters and tractors, just take the extra time, be patient, you know, statistics show the extra whatever to get around somebody is very, very minimal in travel time. So give them the right of way and be cautious and let's try to make the planting season here safe in Winona County.
Commissioner Ward, I think you have some updates and some comments.
Yes. So last week, we had our Association of Minnesota Counties legislative session. It was well attended. I did get to meet with Miller, Jacob, and Drazkowski. And I have a number of sheets on kind of each policy area. I'll ask Ms. Holte to forward to everybody. Big talk of technology modernization. And they all, regardless of what hat they wear, Republican or Democrat, they're all realizing there is a great need, a great problem, but nobody's got a solution. They are more and more legislative people have looked at, they had the green screens that our staff use, so they're starting to realize this. And a lot of discussion about how we modernize and how we maybe pick and choose small parts and move forward and such, but they are realizing that they are asking us to do something that's ridiculous. And my ask when I go into these meetings, I says, can I have your cell phone and your computer? I want you to do your job for a week without it, the tools you need to do a good job. And that's what you're asking our employees, our social workers. It's impeding hiring, because how do you hire a new young college graduate that has more technology in their hand when they go out on their lunch break, meaning their cell phone, than they do when they come in to do their job? So it's affecting workforce, it's affecting services to clients. So they're getting it, but again, will they allocate enough money to do it? And I've got some really good county partners, Dakota County, Scott County, Washington County, they all really, and the Hennepins and Ramseys have so many staff that they're really working on this and trying to get it figured out. But there's key issues in all these papers. So I will ask Ms. Holte to make copies and send to both department heads and
I hope they
county staff. Also, you know, there was talk about the property taxes. We're lucky that we have a few county commissioners, former Commissioner Jacob, he gets counties, but so many of his counterparts don't understand counties and what they're asking us to do and everything. So he is a good ally to have in that position. And it's kind of crazy. The legislative, their buildings, their security, moving around, but it was really good. Today is township, as Mr. Bamanek said, today is township elections. So if you live in a township, get out there and vote, attend the annual meeting. You get a say, direct say in passing budgets at the township level. It's really the true grassroots of local, government. So please, if you're in a township, make sure you go out and vote. Make sure you know who you're voting for. Some places people didn't put their name on the ballot. They forgot to. In my township, somebody forgot to register. So you got to remember, I don't know if you have to spell the last name correctly or if you get the first name, it counts
Oopsie.
and such. But it is a big day for townships and their budgets passed and everything. So thank you.
That's it, I think.
Motion to adjourn,
So move.
Second.
made by Commissioner Elsing, seconded by Commissioner Ward. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor of adjournment, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
If anyone's opposed, say nay. We are adjourned. Do you want a 5-minute break?
Yes, please.
Okay, then we will move on to committee of the board.
I like the, one, guy, Liberty, it's my son.
Well, so after you get done with us, are you going to do something fun?
Not today,
This
not
week?
tomorrow, but he's going to go to Eau Claire with my parents for Thursday, Friday, and help my daughter move.
Oh, well, that won't be that fun, but okay, maybe you'll enjoy it.
Janine had a medical.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Oh.
You take a sprinkles, one with sprinkles?
I did. I thought I'd try to make a mess.
Go for it, yeah.
Reliving your childhood.
You're in charge of
Yeah.
I think
Yeah,
you're in
we're-
charge of the facility, so,
This is coming to help.
yeah, if anyone
Since
can,
I've got
make a
mail on
mess, it'd
Friday,
be you.
Coming on Thursday night. So.
Thank you, Jill.
Thank you, guys.
Bye-bye.
You don't.
Stay with the dogs and Carl, I should say. No,
Yeah.
not just the dogs, but yeah, but taking the dogs out is a big thing. Oh.
Just, oh, and if you listen so easy. I did, and I emailed you like right before the meeting, and I got some information back to you.
I had a constituent ask, I said, I know what we ran into, they had to do more base work and.
That's exactly what it was.
Yeah.
And I printed it out.
Okay,
but
and I
wasn't
can-
sure.
I can.
I didn't bring it. Well, that was the email. Attached to it, out of the, all the detail of the final
okay.
payment, but it was basically subcutting the landscape road. Putting it out to 2 feet of mighty material, pulling that out and then hauling sand up like from the Homer pile. And.
But I had also, she said, question was, you know, how did we? Like, over. You know, both sides of it, we kind of got you by the. Where they want to grab.
Jordan,
How are you?
Good.
Yeah, surviving.
I am surviving. Good.
I know, people are asking.
Yep. So Maureen, before the next meeting, are we gonna get the giant pages? Yeah, okay. If you print those and they're available before that day, I will come pick them up.
Yep, that's what our plan is.
Yeah, because I thought that's what the last set was, and then I was like, it's 8.5, 11, I couldn't have done this myself.
I mean, even.
Yeah,
But thank you.
Okay,
But we
so
didn't want to
my
do
concern
those
with it was
because
the-
it,
that big-
because
It's a waste.
if
Like, if you add the two together.
we thought we'd wait until we finish it all and though, there you go.
And it's giant, and it's
Law
giant
enforcement.
paper.
Yeah,
But 375,000 of that is not, that's been cleared, or that's still on a check basis, not a draw basis, right?
Okay, thank you.
Like you only authorized the 100-some thousand.
Thank you.
Right, so the 375 will come through, but that's on a check basis, because we had 2 other checks, so, okay. All right, so,
You know that road
Could
cost
have
us
paid
almost
off.
$1 million more than we
Right.
had anticipated too, didn't you? Yeah, that was
And it
turned into a horror
I
show.
think we just leave
I'm
it,
proud of you, good.
because,
Yeah,
you know, if we run into
Well,
a
I've got a couple
situation, we
people
know
that
the
don't like the
scapegoat
ride.
can get out now, but I think what we should do is in the
Right.
future, we just
Yeah.
need it if we know we gotta have a
Gosh,
draw
we love
immediate.
you. That's how much.
Because otherwise, we're gonna have $500,000 floating out there
Really?
in limbo,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Well, half of it was state funds,
know,
right,
it's-
or more.
yeah,
Well,
yeah.
can you
Concrete.
help me?
right? Because we're gonna have a bigger draw of a couple million
That's
coming
why.
in, so.
Like,
Okay, sounds good, thanks.
thank you.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know,
but I do have something.
Okay, I would like to call us back to order. We begin the committee of the board. First item is on our agenda, page 105, it's item 9.1. And to clarify this, at least as I understand it, Commissioner Bagley asked, and I seconded, that we add this item to this meeting. This is the second conversation, not the actual conversation. So if three of us agree to move this forward, then it would come on an actual agenda where we could vote on it.
Okay.
And the issue is that we make a formal statement about whether we will or will not take any action towards either accepting the legislation that makes it rifle, or if we revert to shotgun only.
So
We just make that statement. So
if we do nothing, it just moves forward.
To the
So
state.
is there even a need? So it would have to be somebody wanting to basically repeal what the state's put in any place to create the motion, correct?
I think,
So my thought is, so for the public to know, to reduce one of our bunches of emails and phone calls that come through. And so that the staff knows where the county board
where
stands.
we're coming from.
Just go around the table and have all of us state where we're at. Then the staff would know. I think it's like, do you support reverting back to shotgun only zone? Or are you okay leaving it as is, which means do nothing else? Just so that people don't need to guess like
Yeah.
where commissioners are at. I'll start off, if that's okay with the rest of the
Oh,
board.
no, I'm saying that's not this conversation. That's the next
Right, but
conversation.
I think if we just all clearly, if we all clearly state where we're at.
But the point would be so that the press and the public aren't like waiting, like we're gonna secretly bring this back up
Right.
in 6 months and, you know,
What's our deadline? 24th,
May.
May?
No, it's this year, May.
okay?
Yeah, till May 24th or something like, it's in May, so.
And counties have done it all different ways.
Yeah.
This is a hot topic at
Yeah.
county meetings.
Can we just go around and say where we're at with it? I'll start off. So originally, I had a lot to learn. I was open and still am open to any and all viewpoints. Had to learn a lot, listen to a lot of feedback from people. Originally, my default setting was in terms of public safety and public freedom was to lean towards public safety. And I still think that there's a lot of very legitimate concerns by people who are concerned about, especially residents living next to state land, about moving to rifles. Just last week, a military veteran and an avid deer hunter said, in the military, we're trained to always know what's beyond the target. And he said, but when deer hunters, some, not all, some, when they hunt, they don't just fire at standing deer, they shoot at running deer, and you shouldn't. But he said they take 6, 7 shots, and with the shotgun slugs, it's going to drop sooner and less of a possible danger. So I get there are very valid reasons why people are concerned. Having said that, listening to the input of many community members, from the county sheriff, from other members of the sheriff's department, et cetera, in terms of the experience over in Wisconsin, like right across the river, I have now shifted my view, and I am okay. And we can revisit this 1 year, 2 years, 3 years from now and see how if this becomes a major safety issue. And of course, we don't want to wait until someone gets shot and dies, but just to see how much of an issue it is. I'm okay leaving it the way that it is in terms of the state change. And it's no secret that Senator Drazkowski and I have a few differences. So my concern also was if he was for it, then there must be a problem with it. But I must admit that there's a lot of research that went into it, and I changed my mind on it. So I'm okay with rifles, and we can to keep it as is, to end the conversation about considering reverting back to shotgun zone.
Yeah, there's inherently a risk every time I get into my truck and drive down the road. It's part of what it is. The statistics is 16%. When my grandparents were killed, they were 16% at fault because some lady swerved over the center line and killed them simply for being there. That's the reality of it. And we inherently have risk every day. I can completely appreciate people that live in those areas. It's a choice to live in those areas. you know, if somebody absolutely feels as though it's a problem, I don't expect anybody to move. I don't expect anybody to do anything different. But, you know, we look at this and we simply say inherently rifles, I own rifles and shotguns and handguns and probably more guns than I should. But at the end of the day, it's in the guns don't kill people. People kill people. And so inherently it's in the hands of that. And, you know, I'm more than willing to see what happens. And so I've supported it. I guess, you know, I wanted the public comment. I was actually surprised that there were not as many people against it. That's what I was anticipating. So, you know, my stance is an overwhelming support for their rifles, myself included, because again, it's guns are only dangerous in the hands of people that have something inattentively evil in their mind, or attentively evil in their mind. So, I have no issue leaving the state law as is.
State law. I mean, I've asked what other state law can I circumvent, and none. I do highly encourage though rural landowners, and we heard from some of them very concerned and such, is to, and I apologize that posting your land is so overburdensome, but rural landowners should post their land. Yeah, that's something we have to work on. If you don't own the land, you should know that you're trespassing. I mean, but it just seems like how many people trespass and it creates problems. So they need to post their land, even though it's overburdensome, and they need to control the hunters they allow on their land. They're still in control. If they have people, if they're leasing their land, or if they're neighbors, maybe they can get together as a community, you know, small group, say, hey, we only want, you know, shotgun or slingshots or bow and arrow. There's some people that only restrict it to bow and arrow hunting and such. There's all kinds of options so that they can control who is on their land. Yes, they can't on other people's, but on their land, they are in control and such. So yeah, I think we just, and again, it can be addressed in the future if we do see a problem.
And just going back to alluding to that, taking running shots, and I think anybody that's ever deer hunted has done that. There's no doubt about it. I got so bored with deer hunting, I shot the last 9 of them in the head just because shooting their body was too big of a target. So I made it challenging, right?
And
They were
we
all
do-
does.
We do need them to
but-
hunt because we have this chronic wasting disease and everything.
Well,
We need
and
them
it's,
in the herd.
the reality of it is taking a pop shot with a rifle isn't very accurate because typically you're scoped up and that's very difficult to do. It is in essence the definition of a shotgun. It is designed for a quick fire, lower accuracy, bang, 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 versus a rifle, you're taking a calculated shot. So I see a lot of people, you know, in stands, like I hunt in stands, and, you know, versus if I'm doing some sort of a drive, I would sooner have a shotgun than a rifle, just because the accuracy of trying to move a target that fast is standing in the woods on a side hill, whatever it might be, is going to be much more difficult. So, and chances are when you're doing those types of drives, you're in some sort of a wooded area that you can't distance, is, you know, you're only shooting out so far. So I honestly see people actually packing both guns depending on how they hunt. And having a shotgun for the drive scenarios, have a rifle for posting, you know, day or night. So that's what I anticipate happening. And so it's another reason why I say, hey, the realistic aspect of this being a danger is exceptionally low. So.
Mr. Vigley, do you want to have a resolution come before the full county board at a regular board meeting?
I thought that if we just indicated our thoughts right now, the issue could be put to bed, put to rest.
Do you have a,
The answer is
Commissioner
no.
Meyer, do you have a
Correct.
opinion? We all
Um,
shared ours.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is not the actual conversation. This is the conversation to have the conversation.
So I think we're trying to put it to bed.
Yeah, okay. So to not follow my own rules, I will tell you, initially I reached out to Sheriff Ganrud and to our emergency manager, Ben Klinger. And they both sort of initially had a negative response, but then asked me to look at the data from the Wisconsin DNR, because in 2012, they passed allowing of rifles. They had been doing a safety campaign prior to that. The numbers of incidents, meaning people getting shot, was on the way down. Once they had legalized the rifles, that continued to go down. So it didn't make a difference in terms of any data supporting that there would be a public safety issue. The majority of incidents happen within 50 yards, and the majority of incidents happen with people shooting people within their own party or injuring themselves. So there isn't a statistical increase in the sort of shooting incidents after that was changed. So despite the fact that I have a lot of empathy for the folks that came before us and have concerns because they're shooting and they're concerned about the people who are on public land and they don't trust the hunters, there just isn't public safety data to support reverting back to shotguns, so.
I see our Winona Post reporter is online. I would highly encourage more articles in the paper about gun safety. What are the rules and the regulations, and encourage young people, and maybe, some of the senior citizens need some safety reminders too. So maybe the press can help us enhance, rules, regulations, and just basic gun safety.
We've gotten so scared of guns when, again, a gun can't do anything until you put it in the hands of somebody.
Yeah, so maybe they can help us out, educate the public,
So
education.
we are not going to bring this back. through.
No.
I think I think the staff can clearly say where the board is at, so we can
Yeah.
put it to bed.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. So moving on to item 9.2, discuss potential use of the annex for emergency homeless shelter. There's not a lot in the packet, just the front page, but
Is it okay if I start off?
Yeah.
I need to leave at 11, so
Just for
I'm gonna be,
clarification, this was to discuss whether you wanted to
To
discuss
discuss
it at
it.
the next meeting.
Okay.
Not the first time.
so,
Yeah,
right,
okay.
so
We don't discuss.
we aren't discussing it, we're just, okay, so we should be able to do this in 4 minutes, Commissioner Elsing.
thank you.
All right, so
There is a need for, because there are cold temperatures during April. There is a need, Wesley is going to close the night shelter on March 31st. Wanted to see if we could consider the annex or some, and again, this is on an emergency basis. It would not be every night. It would only be below a certain threshold, and we could skip showers, toilets are needed, but we're not talking about a full shelter, the Taj Mahal. We're talking about to see if this would be one option. And trust me, there's a lot of other, I'm talking with multiple churches. I'm talking with other people as well, Winona State. I'm trying to find through April, because there are cold temperatures in April as well. The hope was to have it at Wesley, but there's just, the plumbing is just overwhelmed.
I would support at least having that conversation and bringing forward the data that we've gathered from the sheriff's department and other folks in dispatch, et cetera. So I would support at least bringing this forward for a conversation. Yeah.
Where are we on the bigger picture of what are we gonna do with that facility long term? Do we know? I mean,
Yeah, this is just for the month of April, for one winter.
Yeah. And
but I don't think you can just use it. That's the problem with ADA and all that
Commissioner
stuff.
Ward, before we go into a long, like 15 more minutes of discussion, I would say, fine, but this is appropriate for the next meeting.
Meeting, okay. I mean, that,
Commissioner
so
Elton, before
prepare
you
your
go-
comments for the next
Yeah,
meeting, please.
Commissioner Elsing, before you go,
Hold that thought, hold your breath. would you?
are you interested in having a fuller discussion?
I'm interested in the discussion. I mean, I don't want to downplay the situation, but again, I'm just cautiously.
Okay, so I support that as well. Commissioner Ward.
Information is always good,
Okay, so I think, yes, we're willing to have a fuller conversation. I thank you for all that.
although can you
Okay.
put it in Chat GPT and just get it report?
Yeah, there you go. Okay, so
Commissioner Ward, you're surprised.
You
I
go.
thought you were the last one beyond, after me, that would be.
really, the board is adjourned. Thank you.
Really condenses stuff.
Can I-
That's good.
Maureen, is there any chance I could?
Oh, here.
Oh, you.
No, mine broke.
broke
Oh,
it.
Yeah.
I send those